Feel it in the air. Seahawks, Seattle. It's getting a little colder out there in the evening. Fall is on its way. October baseball, week 5 of the NFL. Buckle up, because it's time to get busy. Welcome, 12th man, 12th lady, and Hawks Nation around the world. This is your show, 12 for 12s, with your host, Paul Beyer. That's me. And I am extremely excited to be with you this evening, Tuesday, September 30th, the last day of September in 2014. Boy, you can't get excited enough. So much to get to this evening as the Seahawks come out of the boring bye week. How boring, seriously, how boring was this weekend for you? Well, thank God I had the Ryder Cup to keep me company, but that turned into kind of a not much fun deal to watch. With the U.S. deciding not to even show up after the Friday morning session. That was really a bummer. Oh, I'm so tired of supporting wusses. Oh, well. The one thing I'll tell you right now that we'll never have to worry about with this Seahawks team, they are a bunch of winners. Well, they got the ring and the trophy to prove it. And then you have those little 49ers down there and with the Eagles coming to town down in tight-fitting jeans stadium. I'll tell you what, I just want the 49ers to rack up as many losses as humanly possible before their studs come back, Alden and Bowman, obviously, later in the year, which this team will be a different team in the second half, or really the final quarter of the season. A whole bunch of rookie quarterbacks got their chances to shine this weekend. I didn't see that coming. Obviously, a lot of them actually did pretty well. Teddy Bridgewater in Minnesota, Blake Bortles in Jacksonville. Jimmy Garoppolo came in there in a series last night at Monday Night Football with New England and actually drove him down the field and scored. And a guy that I think will forever look 22, Eli Manning, with his deer in the headlights, decided to start playing again. His 2 Super Bowl rings, turns out, wasn't enough. Threw 4 touchdowns and 0 INTs. Yeah, 0. He already had 5 in 3 games. He was on track to get back to that mark of 25 last year. Really shocking, but hey, I guess Eli decided to again, make an effort. The NFL was full of parity this past weekend. I mean, really, Atlanta and New England went down big on the road as favorites. Dallas, well, has really every national pundit out there feeling like they're the best team in the league all of a sudden, taking care of the Saints and dealing with them in front of the country on Sunday Night Football. It actually, I got to tell you, though, the left tackle for Dallas, Tyrone Smith, is a beast. Actually reminds me of Walter Jones a little bit. I know that's sacrilegious, but he has they talked obviously about him, but he was running guys clear out of bounds. Again, a lot like Walter. That guy is going to be someone we're going to need to worry about when we face them here in a few short weeks. The good and bad news of an early bye week is really over. We got to get that behind us. It's now down to the really not down to anything except we got a long road, which is going to be my commentary this evening. So much to get to tonight, really so much to get to tonight. First, and I'm so excited to introduce again, my guest this evening is local celebrity, amateur golfer, and sports director for Q13 Fox Sports, Aaron Levine. Yes, the big guy is here in the house, and looking forward to talking with Aaron a little after the bottom of the hour. A lot of great topics, great questions I want to get his opinion on regarding the Seahawks team, as obviously he's one of those insiders down there at the VMAC quite a bit. Also, as always, we'll have all the latest Hawks news in my quick takes, and commentary, and Hawks 12. This is going to be a fun one, folks. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. And the quick takes, first and foremost, this information just came out today, very, very early this afternoon. But Daryl Simon, who a lot of people expected to possibly be back as early as this week, looks like he's going to be out of commission for a little longer. It looks like a few more weeks. He is running, but according to Pete Carroll today in news conference, Thurl Simon is not going to be back this week, and it'll probably be at least a few more weeks. Obviously, there's other injury news and so forth I'll get to, Zach Miller being one of them, but that will be part of my Hawks 12, so bear with me. Seahawks, and this is an interesting stat, Seahawks have won 10 of their last 11 primetime games. Think about that. When the nation, and when better yet, all the other players in the league are watching this team, the Seahawks come to play. And so I think it's a very exciting thing, one, to know that these guys play their best in under the lights, and two, again, we got another primetime game where everybody can see how good this team is. On top of that, we are a rising 7.5-point favorite, and I thought this was interesting to bring up because typically you just don't see teams be heavy road favorites in the NFL, and 7 points is a heavy favorite. We actually started this week, yesterday, at 6.5, and we've gone up to 7.5 already. Obviously, a lot of money in Vegas is going on the Seahawks, and the thing that's interesting, too, to think about this is that the big money typically in Vegas doesn't come in until literally that morning of. So if you want to see where this is going to go, and maybe this is a way that the books down there are trying to push people towards the Redskins for somehow, some way, wow, it's going to be interesting. So I think this is going to be an interesting line to watch as the week continues. Third, Warren Moon, and this is, I think, pretty cool to know, but Warren Moon, obviously a long-time NFL player with the Houston Oilers, CFL, Husky, finished his career here with Seattle. He has his football life, the series, the show that's on NFL Network, premiering this Friday on the network, but there's actually going to be a Thursday red carpet event. I'm sure my guest, Aaron Levine, will be there, so I'll actually hopefully be able to get a chance to ask him about it. But that is going to be this Thursday. And I would advise, if you're in the neighborhood, check it out or see how if it's possible to go to. But I know it's going to be a big thing, raising funds for his charity, and, again, something to look at. Also, for those that didn't know, I appeared with Norb Quealy on one of his Norb cams. It was we filmed it down at Dino's Pub, right next to the VMAC in Kennydale, off of 405. It was an opportunity to watch the San Diego game, a road game, together. It obviously didn't go the way we wanted it to, but for any of you that want to know what it's like to watch a football game, a Seahawks football game, with yours truly, but also find out how just I am during games, and I'm not one of those nervous Nancys. I really have a focus on what I'm watching, and usually the big carries, the loud yells, that happens in the playoffs. But it was still a lot of fun to hang out with Norb, and again, you can find that on Norb Cam on YouTube, Norb Quealy's channel, which is fantastic, all the different works that he's got, including this last weekend's Denver Broncos Norb Cam, the rivals Norb Cam, which is just fantastic. So check that out. One of the big and great stories, I think, of this last week, obviously bye week, not a lot going on. There wasn't a lot of stories. But one thing the Seahawks organization did, which I thought was absolutely tremendous, is they went and celebrated Blue Friday with a gentleman by the name of Frank Henderson. And Frank Henderson is, unfortunately, a man who is terminally ill with, I believe it's cancer, and obviously a lifelong 12th man himself. But a number, 1,000-plus people, friends, family, and a number of Seahawk-connected folks went down there to his home and outside and just had the biggest party you've ever seen. There were seagulls. The Beast Bus was out there. They were laying the tunes. Blue, I know that Mama Blue was out there. The many celebrity, Seahawk-type fans were there. It was really just a great thing for all the people to do, but also I think the organization to show that they're aware of the 12s, especially 12s that are at a point where obviously they're suffering from something and that they know that they can bring a smile to their day. I think this is just another reason that we should obviously just be in love with our team and our organization, but the Seahawks, to do something like this, really it goes to show that you have your heart and your mind in the right place. All right, let's go ahead and get to the show. Obviously, a great show this evening. Aaron Levine joining me after the bottom of the hour. But before then, and obviously a couple of the Hawks 12 topics we need to get to, let's do tonight's commentary. And the commentary this evening I called The Long road. I think it's safe to say the NFL is one heck of an adventure. Winning it last year was almost too much to dream of or contemplate as part of our daily lives. At some point, it even became a boogie monster. I mean, the feeling of the thought alone could almost consume you. There's so much build-up to this last season, and it's truly felt to me like it's never subsided, even a little. We are truly on a long road, a road to Seahawks glory with one of the youngest teams in the league. All we want is to keep this feeling going forward. And for that to happen, our team must keep winning. Game 1 was surreal because it was like an event. The whole day was built up. Since the end of the Super Bowl, it seemed like we never came down. It almost felt like an encore to me. Proof to everyone that we were the champions and here to stay. Then that little speed bump down in San Diego. Ooh. Again, didn't that just feel surreal? The Chargers had no business beating us, but they did. Playing a perfect game, and for the first time in my opinion, our coaching staff was beaten. Plus, the heat didn't hurt. Then there was the Super Bowl rematch. It was a must-win. Why? Well, because a loss told the world that we were frauds, and the 12th man was no big deal. You see, we had something to lose and nothing to gain except another win. Heck, the national media attempted to claim moral victories for the Broncos afterwards, even though the game stats almost mirrored the Super Bowl from just a few short months ago. The bottom line is no one outside of the 12s wants the Seahawks to repeat. We prove that the national pundits are wrong, even if they usually are. We are the crutch in the side of the East Coast, the renegade upstart kids from Alaska. I can feel the hand of a stranger, and it's tightening around my throat. Heaven help me, take this stranger from my boat. I'm your captain. We represent everything they hate. They want the Giants to win. They want the Eagles to win. They want the Cowboys to win. They even want the Redskins, the Washington football team to win. It's all about the old school. And it feels like it will be that way forever. Well, the longer we as Hawks Nation can stay on this road together, the longer we can prove to the world we truly are the best. The grind begins again now. 14 straight weekends of Hawks going to war with the world. Even if it's only one team, the world wants us to lose. That means the 12s must answer the call and stay on this road with them, hell or high water. We are the captain of this voyage, and it will go on for as long as we stay true to who we are. And oh, how amazing it is. The 12th man of Seattle, the Seahawks, together, we drive this bus down the dark road of the world with only one goal: to win the next game. Buckle up, kids. This week's victim is the Washington Redskins, or football club, or whatever they're calling themselves nowadays, under the lights of Monday night. Once again, the world will be watching us. I hope you enjoyed that little music interwoven with my words this evening, with my commentary, The Long Road. And yes, it is a long road we have now in front of us, but one I think we are properly prepared for, and I'll cover many of those thoughts I have about that here in the Hawks 12 this evening. By the way, I made some jokes regarding the Washington Redskins, and I would just let everyone know, if you didn't have a chance to see the NFL South Park episode from last Wednesday, it was absolutely hysterical. They obviously drove the whole concept of whether the Redskins Washington football team should be called the Redskins, what that name means. Obviously, all the satire that you could imagine that those guys put together. It was extremely funny. And they look at all the sides. And I think one of the funniest moments was, and I won't ruin it, but just when they focus with the NFL, when Dan Snyder has to go to see Roger Goodell and the other owners and talk to them, it is really funny. So if you get a chance to watch that, I would definitely advise it. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial. We're going to come back and get into the Hawks 12. But first, let me just have a quick message from one of my sponsors, Sam's Tavern. If you're heading downtown to watch a Mariners game or just meet up with some friends, well, think about hitting Sam's Tavern on 1st and Pike in Pike Place, the home of the Red Robin Hamburger, great eats, good beer, awesome people. Take a load off and enjoy your time at Sam's Tavern. You'll be glad you did. Check out the Bloody Mary Bacon Masterpiece, the burger on top of the Bloody Mary with a stick in the middle, delicious. How can you get much better than that? Well, tell them the Double OT sent you. You never know what's going to happen. They might give you a stuffed animal. I don't know why, but just ask. Again, this is a shout-out to Sam's Tavern down on Pike, 1st and Pike in Pike Place. Go ahead and check them out and tell them Double OT sent you. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, come back, get into the Hawks 12 again after the bottom of the hour. My guest, Aaron Levine from Q13 Fox Sports, will be with us. And so much to get into, but before that, let's go ahead and put our feet up, maybe get a glass of water, you never know, and we'll be right back. A little shout-out to my friend, Norb Kawili again, from Norbcam on YouTube. Listen to his great work, and this is, again, just another great piece from him. We got your back.
Who's got my back? I got your back, I got my back, I got your back, I got my back, I got your back, I got this swag, I got this swag, I got this swag, I got this swag, 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 swag. Seahawks back, I got my back, I got your back, I got my back, I got your back, I got this swag, I got this swag, I got this swag, I got this swag, 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 swag. Seahawks. We are the 12th man, Seahawks, we got your back, yeah. Seahawks, we got that swag, yeah. Defense, go get that sack, and we will be screaming so loud my ears are ringing. Opponents are for starting, like flies they will be dropping. Now throw it Russell Wilson, a punt return by Golden. Amazing catch by Baldwin, another pick by Sherman. We are the 12th man, we are the loudest fans, and Seahawks we got your back, yeah. Seahawks we got that swag, yeah.
right, I am going to take another quick commercial. We'll come back with our guest tonight, Aaron Levine from Q13 Fox Sports, which I'm very excited to do. In the meantime, let's do a quick little shout-out to one of my sponsors, Enlighten, the next big thing. I found the next big thing, Enlighten Strips, ENLYTEN. This is an amazing product that I personally use, from helping provide an energy boost during a busy day or to recovery, electrolytes, whatever you might need, sleep strips even at night. They all work. And I tell you, I know because I've used them. These are things that someone like myself that's had problems sometimes at night with all the different things I got going on, relaxing. When I pop these things in 45 minutes later after reading for that time, I'm ready to go to bed. These are fantastic. Check them out. Affordable, a set sale and available for all ages, no sugars, carbs, or calories, all natural. Go to enlighten.com. That's ENLYTEN.com. They really are the next big thing. And we are back. This is 12 for 12's Radio, your host, Paul Beyer. I am now joined by our guest this evening and Q13 Fox Sports News Director, Aaron Levine. This is always exciting to have him back on the show. His second time with us. Aaron, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, Paul. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, again, thank you for being here, and I love getting your insight, obviously, about the Seahawks. I know you're a busy man, so we'll get rolling right now. First and foremost, obviously, we talked to you a month after the Super Bowl, and I know that you're one of those guys that stays active. You're quite the golfer. How's your summer been?
It's been great. I actually got married this summer, and appropriately, we timed the wedding around the Seahawks schedule in between June minicamp and July training camp, so we were able to go on a honeymoon there. Looking back, actually, this might be the best year ever. The Rose Bowl with Stanford in January, a Super Bowl in February, birthdays in March. I had a hole-in-one in April. We were with the Seahawks at the White House in May, wedding in June, honeymoon in July. I guess August and September have been completely boring. Not really, though. I mean, a really fun start to the season from that loss to San Diego. Looking back on the first 3 weeks of the season, two really big wins at home for the Hawks.
So I know that you had mentioned this, but you were going to try to qualify for the U.S. Open at Chambers Bay. How's that going?
Yeah, if I can get my index low enough, in order to try and qualify for an Open, you have to have an handicap index of 1.4. It's currently sitting at 2.3, so I only pretty much have 2 more months to try and get that down another 0.9 of a point. I honestly have no chance. I don't believe I have a chance of making it to the Open, but my dream come true would somehow to get through local qualifying and get to sectionals. And the reason I'm doing it more than anything is to kind of show our local audience what it's like to go through the qualifying process of trying to make it to a U.S. Open. In fact, more than half the field has to try and qualify, even the pros themselves, unless you are a certain ranking in the world. So we were actually out at Chambers Bay earlier today for a USGA media event and really enjoyed it. It was perfect weather out there. It's amazing how tough some of those holes are going to play next June. I think there are 6 par 4s that are going to be playing over 500 yards. So it's impossibly long at certain times out there, and really excited also to talk about catching lightning in a bottle. Had the Seahawks win a Super Bowl on Q13 Fox back in February. The U.S. Open for the very first time ever is going to be on Q13 Fox next June.
That's right. I'm a big golf guy. I know you know a friend of mine, Darren Kohansky, another big golf guy. This is fun. Well, I wouldn't be doing my job here if I didn't at least ask you. Did you have a chance to watch that Ryder Cup this weekend? That was not fun.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't fun. But I was up at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning watching it. In fact, the last day, when I saw Jordan Spieth have a 4-up lead, and I saw him blow that one, that's right about the time that I turned it off.
Well, I agree with you. I started fast forwarding. Let's go ahead and jump into the Seahawks now, and that's obviously what this is all about. 12 for 12s here. The Seahawks have really been under, I think, the microscope with scrutiny from the national media since training camp and really since the end of the Super Bowl. I'd like to find out from you, do you think it's deserved, and do you think they're handling it well?
I think that any team that wins a Super Bowl is deserving of the microscope and deserving of any scrutiny. And I think this is a team that can handle it well. I mean, they might be one of the most young teams in the league, but they seem like one of the most mature when it comes to the dedication and focus and, I guess, learning from their mistakes. And the environment they work in has not changed at all. They're still competing to be the first in and out of the facility. Richard Sherman, I remember a couple weeks ago, called the VMAC his sanctuary, the place to get away from all the outside distractions and really hone in and take care of business. I think this team can handle criticism, and not only handle criticism, thrive off of any national criticism, because they bottle it up and they use it come game time. We saw how well it worked all last season. I think that's a similar situation this year as well.
So the first 3 games here, I'd love to get your reaction. One, you were down there, on the field before and after the game, talking about all the different activities and obviously the game that took place. It just seemed like the Green Bay game opening kickoff for the NFL was an extravaganza. Just your thoughts on the whole event.
I think it was well deserved, and not just for the Seahawks, but mostly for all the fans and the 12s out there. I mean, the energy in the city was just like it was during that Super Bowl championship run and during the championship parade as well. I remember Pete Carroll told me, he admitted the team didn't even come out while the championship banner was being unveiled because the pomp and circumstance was more for the fans than it was for the team. I mean, the team's already celebrated last year's championship. They were, at that point, focused on starting the next season in that season opener. But for this city to be really the center of the sports world, the entire sports world on that day, to have Pharrell and Soundgarden perform and to have the NFL experience and all that stuff going on down in Pioneer Square and all the former Seahawks coming back like Walter Jones and Joey Galloway, that was really cool. And to top it off, more than anything, we won the game. I mean, that's the most important part, because you can imagine what kind of bummer that would have been if after everything that went on before that game, they end up losing to the Packers in the season opener.
You're right. Thank God that didn't happen. But unfortunately, Game 2 came around, and, I know you're around former players, a lot of the insiders yourself on a regular basis. Did any of them feel like, one, we'd lose the Chargers game, and two, when you are out there seeing Russell, obviously we saw what happened in Game 3, but in that San Diego moment, when he got the ball with 3 minutes left, did you feel that we were going to score and win that game?
Initially, yes, and then the fly sweep to Percy Harvin didn't work, and they lost 5 yards on that first play. Honestly, though, I think we've been so spoiled and so groomed to expect greatness and late-game comebacks from Russell that I think everyone out there thought the Seahawks were in it until the very end, and then all of a sudden the Chargers take over, and it's like, wait a minute, we're actually going to lose this game. And you compare that to a couple of years ago, it's amazing how the confidence factor runs within all of us, thanks to the heroics that we've seen over the last couple of years. And the funny part is, I was more confident in the Seahawks winning the Chargers game and making that comeback at the end of that game at that point than I was the Seahawks beating the Broncos once the game went to overtime last week, because at that point, if you think back, Denver had all the momentum. Peyton Manning had just sucked the life out of all the fans and the team, and I think a lot of people felt the Broncos were going to pull it off. Unfortunately, they didn't, and it's not to say that I never lost faith in the team, but it just felt like the tide had turned at that point, and it was advantage Broncos heading into that extra session.
Well, let's move on to that, and what I want to find out from you is, do you believe the team will benefit and going forward from that Broncos game and how it ended up with them driving the length of the field and getting the score to ultimately win.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I compare it to the overtime win in Chicago a couple of years ago, and we had Doug Baldwin on Seahawks Game Day the other day, and he reiterated that as well. I mean, that was a game that was a huge momentum builder in Russell Wilson's rookie season, and games like that in the Broncos last week, they can really have a positive impact on the team. And I hate the fact that they lost the San Diego game. I love the fact that Earl Thomas came out later that week and said that he regained his competitive spirit, because he certainly looked like he got it back against the Broncos. I know he wasn't credited for any forced fumbles, but technically he had two. One that Cam Chancellor was credited for on the very first Broncos drive, and the second one that was overturned because they said the receiver didn't have both feet on the ground, even though he clearly had control of the ball. So anytime you win a close game or have to face adversity together as a team and pull through, I feel like it can only be a benefit going forward, because you've proven to yourselves and to your teammates that it can be done.
I talking about that play, the whether or not the receiver had his feet on the ground and made a quote-unquote football move, right? I don't know anyone, and I hate feeling like I'm biased when I look at that play, but I try to take myself out of that fandom mode and say, is that really a fumble? And I'm usually able to make the call, and I got to tell you, I just feel like they totally dropped that. And even Mike Pereira was on, during the live broadcast, and he said, no, that's not a fumble. He didn't make a football move. Did you ever hear or talk to anyone, and again, kind of off the script here, but did you ever talk to anyone or hear from any of the guys about how they actually define that football move?
Well, the football move means, and Pete Carroll talked about it, how he has to have both feet down. So while he was making a football move, so to speak, in the air and clearly had control of the ball, the way the league sees it is that you have to have that second foot down in the process of making that motion. And I don't necessarily agree with it. I know a lot of Seahawks fans disagree with it as well. Also take it from a guy who has Earl Thomas on his fantasy team in an individual defensive player league and lost by 2 points last week and wasn't credited for either forced fumble. And I was a little disappointed about that, and maybe that's one of the reasons I brought it up again a couple of seconds ago. But it was clearly a forced fumble, and the Seahawks should have taken over right there. And unfortunately, we were not the beneficiaries of a terrible call. So it's something to keep an eye on going forward. I've definitely seen fumbles called on less than that. Let's put it that way.
Yep. Well, let's talk about first quarter grades, because we're at that kind of point in the season, and talk about some of the different position groups. And obviously we know who play these position groups, but just your thoughts on how things are going there. Let's start with the quarterback and Russell Wilson. How would you grade his season so far?
I mean, not much of a change there. Russell's always going to be Russell. He's made the right decisions at the right time. If I had only one critique, so far it's when he hasn't gotten rid of the ball quickly enough. And we've seen it a couple of times this year. It hasn't happened frequently, but that DeMarcus Ware sack at the goal line comes to mind against the Broncos. That could have been much worse than a safety on the next play when Marshawn was tackled in the end zone. The fact that Ware came from behind, Russell's very lucky that he held onto the ball and wasn't aware that the guy was coming off his blind side. Now, then again, he's been somewhat spoiled by having a guy like Russell Okung on that side. Oh, that's the right side. So, no, that would I'm trying to think. Which way was he coming from? Because I don't exactly remember.
It was on Justin Britt. It was versus Justin Britt.
It was on Justin Britt. Okay, so there you go. And you talk about Justin Britt. I think the fact that Zach Miller's out for the next couple of weeks is really going to hurt this team, because he was a guy who was helping Justin on the right side of that line, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do going forward, whether they bring in an Alvin Bailey or Gary Gilliam to help them out on that side.
Just one more thing on the quarterback side, and again, I know that you guys haven't necessarily talked about this on any of the post or pregame shows, but I'd love to hear this if you have the chance to write this question down. But the depth of Russell's dropbacks, when he takes those dropbacks, sometimes it feels like he goes past the pocket that actually is there. I'd love at some point maybe one of you guys to talk about that because they have, obviously 5 yard, 7 yard, and he likes to get really deep in those drops, specifically because he can see over the line better. I mean, that makes sense to everybody. I'd really like to see or hear more about that, because it seems to me like sometimes, like you said, critique, Russell takes drops that are too far, and it's almost almost like he leaves the pocket and makes himself susceptible to those types of plays from DeMarcus Ware.
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's something that I'll bring up with Dave Wyman and Max Strong. Take a look at a little bit closely. And the one that comes to mind there is it was sort of an Olay block by Robert Turbin in the last game, where Russell, it was sort of on Turbin, but it was also on Russell for not stepping up in the pocket on that play as well. And so, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point and something that I can definitely bring up with our game day analysts.
The running backs, I mean, Marshawn's been Marshawn. I think Robert Turbin's look fantastic. Just your thoughts on the running back crew.
I think Lynch looks stronger than ever. Again, I'm curious to see how the loss of Miller is going to affect the run game for the next few weeks. But Turbin looks good, and then again, we'll see whether Christian Michael ever sees the light of day on the field. I mean, he looks pretty decent in the preseason. It's just a matter of whether he's going to be active come game day, and I think that's going to happen in the next few weeks. We'll finally see Christian Michael active. Whether he actually sees the field and sees a couple of plays, it's tough when you're behind two guys like Lynch and Turbin, and knock on wood that they stay healthy. You don't have as big of a need for a guy like Christian Michael, who continues to learn the blocking schemes. This was one of the things that I believe came out in preseason. Is one of the reasons he wasn't active most of last year. Is he wasn't reading the defensive blocks as easily as he should, and he really made an effort to refocus this off season and to study and to watch film, and that's been the one difference, he says, at least from season 1 to season 2.
I think one thing that has been a surprise, a welcoming surprise to all of us, has been the play, especially of our middle guys, Max Unger, James Carpenter, and J.R. Sweezy. Overall, how would you grade the line out right now?
I give him a B+. I mean, you bring up Carpenter and Sweezy, who actually look like, I mean, Sweezy for sure looks like a guard now. I mean, he doesn't look like a converted defensive lineman anymore. Finally, for the first time, he bulked up this offseason, and he looks like one of the most dominant guards in the league, and it's really fun to see him work with Britt on the right side. And then James Carpenter, you've seen certain things from Carpenter that you wouldn't have seen in years past, especially out in the open. When he's blocking for Marshawn downfield. That's something that you would have never seen in the past, and it's good to see that he's clearly lost a little bit of weight, and he's in better shape than he's ever been in his career.
I was lucky enough to talk with the producer of Mike Barwis' show, American Muscle, on Discovery, and that's where Carpenter was all off season. And so It's great if you've had a chance to watch that show, see Carpenter in the background. Always, he's never the main guy, but he's always in the background working out.
Right.
Wide receivers, it's been different this year. I think obviously Percy's kind of the person we're all watching. He's just obviously lightning in a bottle. Doug Baldwin's kind of tippy-toe catches. He still had a couple of them, and obviously the last game, that one on the sidelines was beautiful. I saw that you asked him about that on Q It Up. What do you think right now of what we're doing with the wide receiver group?
I just think you have so much talent. It's such a deep and talented group, and it's kind of amazing. And it was brought up on Seahawks Game Day that neither Jermaine Kearse or Doug Baldwin. I don't think Percy Harvin has a receiving touchdown either. I know he has that one on the fly sweep, but it's been Ricardo Lockett and Derek Coleman and Marshawn Lynch, and it's one of the reasons also why we haven't seen too much of Paul Richardson and Kevin Norwood. And Coach Carroll has talked about that as well. Is they're so talented and so deep that it's hard for those guys to get the reps. The one thing that surprised me, if you remember back to the Denver game, I believe it was late in the fourth quarter, there was a critical third down and long, and the three receivers on the field were Brian Walters, Paul Richardson, and I think it was Lockett. And that's really surprising in a tight moment like that those are the guys that they went with. And they're obviously fully capable. In fact, Walters almost made a great catch. Was a little off target. But I guess that says something about the confidence this coaching staff has in all of their receivers right now.
Yeah, Brian Walters goes from being cut to being on the team and then also being on the field for one of the most important drives of our season,
exactly.
It seemed like. D-line, it's obviously kind of I don't want to say a new look, but how about a new rotation to that with some of the guys that aren't there anymore? I personally think they've been playing great. They're not getting those sack numbers necessarily or ratcheting those up as much, but just overall, how do you think the rotation's been working?
You mentioned the sack numbers. I feel like they need just a half second more sometimes to get to the quarterback. They're really close, but they're just not getting home. And hopefully that's going to change. Cliff Averill was one guy that I thought going into this season that Pete Carroll had raved about throughout the preseason. I really thought was going to have a breakout year, especially since he's in a contract year. This is his last season on a contract. So I thought that Averill was going to be a guy. He hasn't necessarily the last two games. He was solid against Green Bay that first week. I like the fact that it looks like a solid rotation has started to form. They're still kind of tweaking that rotation, but Jordan Hill, and they're getting more confidence in their rookie Cassius Marsh as well. And Brandon Meebane, he continues to be a force in the middle. He's so good there, and he's been such a stalwart part of this defensive line for so many years, you almost forget about him. But the fact that he's able to take on two blocks and get into the opponent's backfield so often is such kudos to him for that.
Well, there is this guy named Kirk Cousins we get to play this week, so hopefully he won't be running around like these other three guys, these great quarterbacks we've been facing the first 3 weeks of the season. I think the linebacking core, it's had some moments. The San Diego game, a lot of that I actually put on the linebackers because I think it was their reads, but obviously we all know how hot it was down there. Don't want to blame it on that, but let's just talk about what it is. Bobby Wagner's been outstanding. Just how do you see this group coming on? Malcolm Smith feels better. I know there's a report about him feeling a lot better, comfortable now from his injury, kind of recovery. What are your thoughts on the linebacking group?
I think they've been great. I mean, even KJ Wright, you look back to that San Diego game and that touchdown catch that Antonio Gates made, KJ was all over him on that play. Phillip Rivers put the ball in just perfect positions on those three touchdown passes to Gates. So listen, the fact that KJ was able to cover Jimmy Graham so well last year, you have to think that he's going to be just as good this year as well. And he did a decent job on Gates, despite the fact that he caught three touchdowns. And they weren't obviously all against KJ either. I think the enigma to me is still Bruce Irvin. We haven't seen enough of him and where they're using him exactly. I like the fact that Malcolm Smith is doing as well as he is, and Bobby Wagner, you mentioned, is having an outstanding season as well. I would give them an A-, B+ right now as well. And then I think the biggest question mark right now, and you talk about the second, is going back into the secondary, and it has nothing to do with the starters. It has everything to do with who's in that slot position and how Marcus Burley is doing and how they have handled one of the toughest passing attacks in the last couple of weeks. So you're going against, and I don't know who scheduled this, but the fact that they went up against Aaron Rodgers and Phillip Rivers and Peyton Manning the first 3 weeks of the season, somebody pissed somebody off in the NFL scheduling office, apparently, if you're going to go against those three quarterbacks to start a season.
Well, we're through that, I guess. That's the thing we could do.
Fortunately.
Is take solace in
and I'll take,
it.
And as you mentioned, I'll take Kirk Cousins this week.
Sold.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the LOB. I think a lot of people, I've been trying to explain this to a lot of either friends or fans of the show, and they try to contact me, but we don't play a true man-to-man. We play a cover three. We play a zone in a lot of parts of the field with some man-to-man responsibilities, depending on what where the receivers or the targets go. How do you think this LOB has done? And let's talk maybe more importantly about Byron Maxwell, which he's getting beat up, I think, undeservedly, because I think he's done outstanding. Advanced Statistics says that actually he's one of the top DBs in the league. Maybe it's because he's been thrown at, I think 54 times or something like that. But just how do you think the LOB has done, and especially maybe some of that information about the slot guys and how they're kind of forming into this lineup?
Well, let's bring up Maxwell first, because if you're talking about it and he's getting beat up, let's just go to the numbers. Let's go to the stats. And I love the fact that in the very first game, Brandon Browner tweeted mid-game, "Keep going to Byron because he's eventually going to burn you," and that's exactly what he did with that pick. I don't have a problem with Byron Maxwell. I think he's an emerging star on this team. I know that they were a little concerned when he showed up to training camp, a little out of shape from what I hear, but at the same time, he spent his entire offseason training with Eric Berry in Florida, and he was always impressed with the work ethic of a guy like Berry. So I don't think there was much of a drop-off when he was going from training with the LOB to his offseason. I honestly, I don't know much about Marcus Burley aside from what we hear from Earl Thomas and Richard Sherman, the fact that Burley apparently is a very scrappy guy, and that he fits the personality type of the Legion of Boom. So we can only hope that he's going to fit in. He looks like he has so far ever since having to come in early on in the season, and we just hope that Jeremy Lane gets back sooner rather than later after he comes off of IR.
One bonus I think we get out of having this moniker LOB is that anybody that comes into it that's new, I think they see they have a level to rise their own gameplay up to, and I think that those guys bring them up. And I instead of maybe yelling, screaming at guys, why you're not doing something, I think they really help teach them and make them better. And that's really, I think, a prosperous, not just a position group and room to have, but a group of teammates. I think that's one of the great things about this overall Seahawks team, that their players react that way, especially to new guys. And obviously, I think it's shown. He hasn't played really that bad.
No, yeah.
So let's look ahead at the Redskins or Washington Football Club, whatever you want to call it. It's never easy for an NFL team really to travel across the country, especially west to east coast. The Seahawks team has done obviously a lot better over the last few seasons. How has Pete and the organization put a plan in place to better deal with these types of road trips, in your opinion?
It hasn't really been. There really hasn't been much of a difference. As far as road trip going west coast to east coast, I don't think they've really done much aside from leaving a day earlier for those trips. As far as time schedule and practices, they've been pretty uniform throughout the season. So I think we've seen so much success for the most part over the last 3 years under Carroll that I don't think it might have been a psychological issue dating back, because it was historically such a tough situation for a team to have to go west coast to east coast so much, but we haven't seen it very often under Carroll over the last 3 years. I really don't know. Listen, they went 6-2 on the road last year. They probably should have gone 7-1 if you look back at that Indianapolis game. That they should have won as well. So I don't think there has been much of a change over the way that they've done stuff in preparation for away games on the East Coast.
The Skins had a tough game last week. Obviously, the Giants just went in there and all of a sudden looked like Super Bowl champions. Eli Manning,
right.
Didn't throw a pick. How do you? I expect the Redskins, first of all, to come out with blood in their eyes. I mean, anytime we've obviously seen already teams facing the Seahawks, they come ready to play their A game and much better, especially if they're not as good. In your opinion, who are the key matchups that the Seahawks must win to really, take home a victory on Monday night?
I hate to keep bringing up Britt, but that's the X factor in this game. Is Ryan Kerrigan is a solid defensive player, and I want to see his speed going up against Justin Britt on the right side of the Seahawks line. You got veteran against rookie right there, and so what can the Seahawks do to help Britt out on the right side? That would be number one. Number two is it's always fun just to see the wide receivers match up against the Seahawks secondary and their receivers that have extreme talent and extreme speed. I mean, between Garcon and Deshaun Jackson, and then you have number 12, Andre Roberts as well. They're quick guys, and it's not to say that the other guys they haven't gone up against haven't been fast as well, but I always love watching opposing teams' wide receivers go up against the LOB.
And we remember, obviously, from that wild card game a couple of years ago, how Richard and Pierre and all those guys got into it pretty good. So I'm expecting a really good, what do they call that on NFL Network, Wired Up or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, we got a couple minutes left.
And how about an early ejection for Trent Williams for being a bonehead like he always is?
I honestly think it's just going to be bloody murder on Monday night. I mean, it's just going to be. We're going to come out looking for blood too. It's going to be fun. Anyway, let's talk NFC West. I know you got to get going, so let's leave the 49ers for a little bit later. The Cardinals. Did they scare you?
They didn't at the beginning of the season, given the fact that they're without Darnell Dockett. But all of a sudden, they're 3-0. So. then again, in years past, they've started really well and fallen off toward the end. So I think they're still it's kind of a TBD. See how they do the next few weeks. Again, we don't have to face Arizona until the second half of the season. So, and it's really weird this year. Looking at the schedule, the fact that they don't play the Rams until the 7th week of the year, there's not a divisional game until week 7. That's kind of strange. But it's going to make for one heck of an exciting stretch run when you're going up against all these divisional teams in the second half of the year. And
the healthy 49ers, which at that time they should be, and kind of a nice segue. I think it's safe to say that the 49ers we all want them to lose as many games as possible before they get healthy with Aldon Smith and Bowman coming back. And I think Bowman's going to take a little longer. Everyone talks about how easy it is to come back from a knee injury now. That's not true. We're going to face a much different team later this season. Do you see, though, this team imploding with all they have going on around them and Jim Harbaugh beforehand with all these crazy issues?
I sure hope so. I mean, as a Seahawks fan, you sure hope so. You hope that some of what Deion Sanders was saying on the NFL Network is actually true, that there is so much strife and adversity going on in that locker room that Harbaugh has lost some of the players. But then again, they hung in that game against the Eagles this past week, and a team that really could have legitimately been 1-3 is now 2-2, and they seem to be right back on track. They beat a really good Philadelphia Eagles team at home. So, you root for the Niners to lose as much as possible before Bowman and Aldon Smith come back, but it looks like they're still on track.
Rams have been kind of an interesting situation. You know, they're 1-2. They could easily be 0-3, and they could easily be 2-1, depending on how you look at all the games they've played. And you know, losing Chris Long, having that
Paul,
pretty, yeah.
Paul, I hate to cut you off. I'm being called by my producer right now.
You got to go.
I do. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, hey, thanks again. I really appreciate you being on tonight.
Thank you so much, Paul.
You bet. Take care.
You too. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. All right, everybody. That was our friend Aaron Levine from Q13 Fox Sports. Fantastic. We almost got through the entire segment. We only had one question left. We were going to talk about the Rams, but he had to go. That's part of the deal here. And obviously a great guest that was. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, wrap up the show with our rest of our Hawks 12, and I hope everyone out there is having a great time. That was a really great segment with Aaron. Again, this is 12 for 12's Radio. Your host, Paul Beyer. We'll be right back in just a sec. we got a big game coming up, folks. We really do. And I think we're going to go ahead and take care of business in the nation's capital. I'm not truly worried about it, but I am excited to see, as I talked about some of the themes tonight, this long road that we're now on. I'm really excited to see how this team found its identity from this bye week, because I truly feel like they did that. So this is going to be fun for so many reasons, and obviously one of the biggest ones is that they're playing in front of everybody Monday night. That's the players' night. Everybody talks about how that's the night everybody's getting to watch those two teams, even if it's on ESPN and it's on Sunday Night Football or whatever. So Monday night's a very, very special night in the NFL. Can't wait for it. All right, shout-outs and wrap-ups this evening. Obviously, I want to thank my guest, Aaron Levine from Q13 Fox Sports News, the director of everything that goes on there when it comes to the sports department. He's fantastic. He's one of the best. I think he is the best. Queued Up Sports and the Queued Up on Sunday nights wrap is just a fantastic show, and he leads off with a commentary. It's where I got the idea for my commentary on this show. Again, just thank you, Aaron Levine, for coming on and supporting grassroots podcast efforts and radio shows in this community. You are fantastic. Build the Tip. Well, we're still going, and I want to let everybody know that this is some good news. We are now working with large donors, and they are coming to the plate. So more news to follow on this, but I've talked with Joe Michaels and Chris Bauer about this, and they are working on it, and I'll give you news as it comes up. But know that Build the Tip is going to happen. I told you it was prior, and it's going to continue. So if you ever want to know what it's about, please hear my recorded statement on YouTube on my channel, 12 for 12s. I have it there posted, and it's 8 minutes of explaining everything from a perspective of somebody that sees the value and what this brings to the table. Obviously, there are a number of great and different things that you can do if you're interested in helping Build the Tip. Go visit the website, www.buildthetip.com. There's all kinds of different ways to get in touch with the boys there. Thank you again to all my guests and what has happened and continued. I mean, this is show 51. I talked about this is the second part of my season here, with second anniversary, our first anniversary over, now moving on to my second year. I just want to thank again everybody out there who has supported this show and the continually building audience. All of you mean a tremendous amount to me, and the fact that this show has prospered in all the different levels and all the grassroots work effort, again, it's a testament to all of you and the 12s. It's what we are all about, supporting one another and making things happen. Check out my last show. The anniversary show was fantastic. I really enjoyed it with Andrew Fishfane from Yahoo Sports, NFL Network, and his work he does on the Sports Jam Network. The Fish is a great talent, very enjoyable, entertaining guy, has a national perspective. It's a really fun show to listen to, so get a chance to do that, do so. As well as the last three shows, I'm getting great guests associated with different networks that cover the individual teams that we've faced, whether it was Jacob Westendorf with the Packers Network, Stephen Wang from Bolts of the Blue, as well as Chad Jensen from Mile High Huddle. They were all fantastic and been very supportive, so thank you to all of those people. Also, again, one of my, I mentioned him earlier, I play his music, but Norb Kawili from NorbCam, just fantastic stuff that you bring to the table, and do check out NorbCam on YouTube, and that's, again, just find it at NorbCam, and that's the channel. Again, thank you to all those that are listening and support the show. Please do me a favor on all the different social sites, whether it's Twitter, Facebook. Please tweet, retweet, and share and like all our different stuff that we put out. I'm trying to do my best to give you daily updates, and I do that 3 to 5 times a day. So please do me the favor of doing those, and again, share with the masses, the fellow 12s. Thanks to all the different people in the group that do help: Phoebe, Rachel, Joseph, Tina, Tim, Barry, all of you out there. Tracy, thank you so much. I really appreciate all of your help. Thanks again to the Texas guys down there at Subway. Listen to us on TuneIn Network every week at lunch. Again, really appreciate all of you. Again, I tell you, everybody, I really appreciate all of you and what you do. And again, keep going to the website, 12for12s.com. That's 12for12s.com. Of course, there's the work I do on Twitter, at PBizzle, you can find me, PBIZZEL, and then on Facebook at 12for12s Radio, as well as under my name, Paul Beyer. Whew! The last thing before I finish up, I just want to mention again, on the different distribution sites you can find us, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Xbox, and Stitcher. When it comes to iTunes and TuneIn Radio, please rate and review the show. Just do us that favor, because what it does is it allows people to recognize us and find us quicker within their network when they use those search terms like Seahawks or Sports Radio, Seattle Sports Radio. So I really appreciate it if you could do that. Other than that, see you tomorrow on Double Overtime with Tim and Barry, 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2-hour show. We'll obviously get into the Seahawks, the NFL week ahead, as well as cover the end of the Mariners season. This is a special night, obviously a great guest with Aaron Levine, 12 for 12's Radio, signing off with your host, Paul Beyer. Good night, and really, everybody out there have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and we will see you next Tuesday. Again, as we always go out, up the irons, it's time for a little Iron Maiden, and I'm going back to the basics with The Prisoner.
We want information. Information. Information.
Who are you?
The new number 2.
Who is number 1?
You are number 6. I am not a number. I am a free man.
program for this evening. Again, thank you everybody out there for joining me, 12 Patrols Radio, and again, the guest this evening, Aaron Levine from Q13 Fox Sports News. This is your host, Paul Byer, signing off, and as always, go Hawks.